In the second chapter of the fourth canto, the cause of dissension between Lord Shiva and Daksha, which was due to a great sacrifice arranged by Daksha for the pacification of the entire universe, is explained. Lord Shiva is described here as the best of the gentle because he is not envious of anyone, is equal to all living entities, and all other good qualities are present in his personality. The word Shiva means all auspicious. No one can be an enemy of Lord Shiva's, for he is so peaceful and renounced that he does not even construct a house for his residence, but lives underneath a tree, always detached from all worldly things. The personality of Lord Shiva symbolizes the best of gentleness. Why then was Daksha, who offered his beloved daughter to such a gentle personality, inimical towards Lord Shiva so intensely that Sati, the daughter of Daksha and wife of Lord Shiva, gave up her body? Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. So this chapter is beginning, this is the first verse. The chapter is titled Daksha curses Lord Shiva. We will see as we go on the story of the Leela of how the events turned out when Daksha had organized a huge sacrifice and all the dignitaries from different planetary systems were invited, and Lord Shiva was also invited. Of course, Lord Shiva was married to his daughter Sati. So it was a universal affair, and somehow Daksha was position of Prajapati and his position was among the Praja is very high. So when he entered the assembly of the fire sacrifice, for some reason everybody got up. Lord Shiva did not get up. So that offended Daksha like anything, and he lost his temper, and that is the cursing and all those things are there in the rest of the chapter. So basically here Shiva, who is actually so pure and is not envious of anyone, how he got cursed was the question. In this material world, it's not necessary that you have done anything wrong, but somebody can become envious even if you are not envious. This disease of envy and pride is very important for us to understand these two rasas, or you can say Maya rasa. As practicing Vaishnavas, we have to understand what is this envy and what is this pride. Where is the root of that? Both are rooted in a particular kind of paradigm towards life, which is comparison. You're not living your own life. You're always comparing. When does envy come? Towards somebody who has something which you don't have. Isn't it? The cause of envy is somebody has something and you don't have that and you want that. And that is where envy comes. Somebody is having something, you don't have it, and you think you are entitled. That is also important. You think you are entitled. How does pride come? What is the base of the pride? Pride is someone does not have something and I have that. And I am entitled for it. He is not entitled for it. Or I deserve. I deserve it. I have something which somebody does not have and I deserve it. These two perceptions, both are social issues, or you can say it is, if only you existed in the world, there won't be envy, there won't be pride. Both envy and pride are social rasas. They're perverted rasas. So the cause of envy is one thing, but again that is coming from comparison. Cause of pride is again coming because of comparison. In bhakti, we have to become free from pride and free from envy, which means we should give up this habit of comparison. How can you give up this habit of comparison? Only if you see the Lord's hand in everything. Nobody has, karmically, materially, or spiritually, nobody can have anything if it is not sanctioned by the Lord. So in one way, when you are comparing with other living entities, what is really happening is depth of the heart, you are complaining to God. You gave him, you didn't give me. So in other words, you don't have trust and faith that the Lord imparts perfect justice to every living entity in this world. One should firmly believe that if somebody has got something, it is because Lord has sanctioned. Even sadhus, if they see a king, they have to give him respect as a king. Prabhupada explains. Even if he is an asura. Because he is a king. What due respect, that is a different matter. But respect is given. No, I am a sadhu, I am a sannyasi, the Prime Minister has come, and I won't care for him. He is a karmi. All these things will not work. Sometimes devotees will get doubt also. I can see, devotees, President of India is coming and they are thinking as if they are making all arrangement as if God has come. What is your realization of Krishna consciousness? He is an ordinary man. Why you are jumping so much? The reason is, we have to give due respect, because without Lord's sanction, he wouldn't be the president. Without Lord's sanction, somebody wouldn't be a billionaire. So, if Lord has sanctioned somebody to president, he is also sanctioned a social respect, everything for him. You follow that. We have to follow that. Doesn't mean that we pour our heart out. There is a social convention. There is a Vyavaharic, behavior that we have to follow. So, the entitlement, if the devotee understands, is very important. If he understands, you should tell 100 times, 1,000 times, and feed into your system. In the material world, if anybody is having anything materially or spiritually, it is given by God. I should not complain, even little in my heart. It is due and he is getting it. In the society of devotees also, the same thing is there. That's because we are chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. It doesn't mean that we are in Vaikuntha. We can be in the veranda of Vaikuntha. This material world is deeply engrossed, but we are right out to exit this material world by the mercy of the spiritual master, but still in the material world. And therefore, among the devotees also, pride, envy surfaces up, and therefore, it is very important that the devotees in the devotee community also learn how to handle this conditioned mundane rasa of pride and envy. And as we discussed, the root of pride and envy is what? Said, I want something, or I have something which others don't have. So one should have no desires. Just see how everything fits so nicely. One should cultivate one's consciousness to have no personal desires. If I have desire only, then there is want, and then where there is want only, there is comparison. I don't have, he has. One simply adopts the desire of the spiritual master and executes his duties, not connecting it to any social rasa. We do devotional service for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna. It is not easy, because the conditioned way of existence is we always work ultimately that's a conditioned soul, for social rasa. Others have to see, you can see karmi, so much of comparison. The whole economy is based on this. Several years back, I was reading one nice, in the newspaper, nice analysis by an economist. He was saying that in such and such a year, 30 years back, in Japan, the standard of a middle class family was to have a flat of 400 square feet. And then now in 30 years, he says it has become 1,000. Then the people who are living in 300 square feet, they all have shifted to 1,000 square feet. So then same class of people, but they have now the requirement has increased. So he gave a beautiful analogy. It's a very interesting social phenomenon. He gave the example of a football stadium where people are sitting on the galleries and football game is going on. Suddenly the first row, some people, they stand up. The others cannot see. So the others also stand up. Others also stand up. So entire football stadium is standing and watching the game. Isn't it stupid? Somebody from the sky, if you see, he will say, hey, all of you sit and watch here. All of them are standing and watch because he is blocking, like that. So in the same way, the needs in the society, see, so much depends on the mind. Simple living, high thinking, we say. Simple living means what is the bare minimum required, not what, because now everybody has a car, I have to have a car. Everybody has this, somebody has got this brand shoes, I have to get. So there is so much extra expenditure, so much extra effort, all these things all coming out of. So basically, Karmi society means it is running on social rasa because people don't have too much deeper values. In the earlier days, people used to live for themselves. Now, most of the society is living for others. And when you live for others means what? Not live for satisfying them. Living for others' perception. What will he think of me? What will the neighbor think of me? Oh, now what will all the devotees also think? What will all the devotees think of me? Same disease. What will all the devotees think of me? To hell with, yaar. Give up this. What my Guru thinks, what my Krishna thinks is very important. We have place for social rasa. We are not impersonalist. We want to see our spiritual master pleased. We want to see our spiritual authorities representing Prabhupada also pleased. We want to see that. But not that you give out your value system to what everybody else wants, everybody else thinks. So in devotional service, it is very clear that we have to give up sense gratification. Now, to give up gross sense gratification is very easy. Relatively easy to give up gross sense gratification. It's a question of training. So many animals don't have so many kind of gratification that humans want. Just like Prabhupada says, monkeys. So many examples he gives. Pigeons. One kind of sense gratification. Monkeys, Prabhupada gave example of they're all vegetarians. That they become devotees. Vegetarians. So giving up meat, oh, see monkeys, so austere, they've given up meat. It is natural. So those are all not big things. So sense gratification, devotees understand, means two things. Gross sense gratification and social gratification. The social gratification is the biggest Maya rasa that will prevent Krishna rasa from awakening. A devotee is a miser, just like Krishna says, anybody engaged in sense gratification is a miser. Miser means what? You do not know what is your capacity, or you're just going on doing some small things. You're a miser. You do not know you are rich. You're going on spending 5 paisa, 10 paisa like this. You do not know how rich you are. You're a miser. Similarly, Krishna says miser, those who are after sense gratification are misers, because we do not know what joy we can get. You are just after this Maya Rasa. Actually, you can get Krishna Rasa. Anybody who is after Maya Rasa is a miser. Miser means he is foolish. He doesn't know his value. So in the same way, one has to realize that this is not anything great, this Maya Rasa, this social rasa. Social rasa in our Siddhanta, how is it described? Puja, Pratishta, Labha. Puja means glorification. Desiring glorification, desiring self-importance, self-glorification, that's puja. Pratishta. Pratishta means nothing but consolidation of a continuous source of glorification. Is a consolidation of puja is pratishta, position. Labha. Labha is, everyone knows. Entire world, if they do any work, their entire thing, what is there in it for me? Is a question that comes in everybody's mind. If I have to do something, I have to know what is there in it for me. I is the most important thing. Devotees always have to think, what is there in it for Guru and Krishna, not for me. I may be loser, doesn't matter. In this situation, is there something for Guru and Krishna's pleasure? Okay. My thing is not important. So, anybody serious about Krishna consciousness should know what we are expected. What kind of purification is expected from our heart. It is not easy, but at least we should know. We should know that if I have to get bhakti, I have to give up sense gratification and social gratification. So many leelas are there, of so many examples set by our acharyas. Madhavendra Puri's story is there. How, the deity, stole a pot of prasadam for him, and then the entire society will, he's a great devotee, they will think he started running away, I should not be here. I don't want this gratification. Everybody is saying now, you are a very special Lord. He does not want to be known as very special. Lord has given you. Lord has taken, hidden this prasadam and given to you. This is the attitude of the devotees towards social gratification. Because suddenly importance will come. I am an important devotee. Those who are really serious about Krishna consciousness should seriously work on this. If we seriously work on this, then the taste of Krishna Bhakti will start coming. So simply following 4 regulative principles is minimum. After that begins the real cleansing. I don't want anything of this material world. Of course, one is helped by the holy name. The holy name shines this transcendental knowledge in the heart of a devotee. What is the value of all these things? The glorified also dies, glorifier also will die. Both were in the head of different living entities. His false ego and that false ego. The material world, that's what is happening now. So devotee is able to see all these things. If you just like you fast forward your life, you will see you dying. No more Madhu Pandit. No more. No more for me also. Because this is a bodily identification. No, for me also I don't exist. The present I don't exist for me also. Unless one lives his life in this life itself, every moment he lives for eternal values, for pleasing Prabhupada, for pleasing Krishna, then every activity becomes meaningful because Krishna observes. It's not a dream. That is why so many activities that have happened in the material world is what we are hearing in Srimad Bhagavatam. Just because something is happening in the material world, it doesn't mean it vanishes out of existence. It is eternal. Prabhupada's Leela of spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world is eternal. Eternally glorified. Therefore we glorify him. So much so that Prabhupada says that the puja, pratishtha, labha is subtle sex life. Very difficult to understand, but take this fact that Prabhupada states, puja, pratishtha. After having controlled sex, brahmacharya, sannyasi, all this, after having controlled sex, one has to become free from puja, pratishtha, labha, means he becomes a paramahamsa. Becoming sannyasi is one thing. Becoming a paramahamsa is the fourth stage of sannyasa. There is a beginner sannyasi, there is middle one, the next one, and then paramahamsa. So paramahamsa means transcended all these subtle desires. So if we are in the path of bhakti, one should understand that these are the obstacles in life, spiritual life. I have begun a journey. If I begin a journey, I have to cross all these things someday. One begins a journey to reach a destination. And if I have to reach that destination, then I have to cleanse myself of all these things. The process may be different. Just by analyzing, you cannot. One has to practice it. One has to swim and practice it in the community of devotees, Vaishnavas. Practice it. So many things happen in the material world. Also happens in the ashram. Also happens in the devotees. Somebody will complain this, what is the attitude? How do you respond to it? How do you take that each as a lesson for oneself to advance in spiritual life? How to utilize all these things? Then one learns how to be humble. So devotional service is not simply, work. In what quality you work for Krishna? In what quality? Everybody should understand this. No doubt, what you offer grossly also, Krishna accepts. Bhavagrahi Janardanaha. Lord sees your service and your consciousness behind that service. So if you want to please the Lord, we should understand that working is one thing. He wants work. Prabhupada wants work. But Prabhupada wants work with a background consciousness. That background consciousness of humility. In fact, if one depends on social rasa, he is an imprisoned soul. First symptom of liberation. Liberation means freedom, disconnect from this world. Comes from desire for cutting out all these things out. Because he sees that this is binding me, this is eating up my mind, this comparison, all these things is simply dragging my mind to negative emotions. I want to be liberated from this. Even in the material world, there are people who have clear mind. They think with a clear mind. They rise very high in the society also because of their thinking ability. One good quality what they have is They base their life on principles, not on what he says. No. He has set his principles. That means he is not people dependent. His performance is not people dependent. His motivation for work is not people dependent. His motivation for work is his self-satisfaction in following the principles. So in the material world also recognizes such people as great people. Why in spiritual life we should not? Even karmis can do that. Even karmis can become free from social rasa. Because they shift that social rasa requirement to an ideal. I have my ideals, I live for my ideals, they say. So they're people independent. So becoming people independent is very empowering. People dependent, what people say means it's pulled down in this life. So we have got the greatest ideal, Krishna consciousness, pleasing Guru and Krishna. So many wonderful principles are there based on to assess whether I am doing right or wrong. Whether this attitude is right or wrong, everything, what I am doing, everything, you can measure it with reference to Krishna consciousness. No doubt, you may take the help of Vaishnavas who will give you the reference and will tell you, okay, this is not as per standards of Krishna consciousness. And therefore the Vaishnavas are not pleased. Okay, that's a bona fide displeasure of the Vaishnavas. No problem. That is not social rasa because it is in consonance with what Prabhupada wants and what Prabhupada doesn't want. Then one should respond accordingly. Yes, that means I should please the Vaishnavas. Anybody representing Prabhupada means representing Prabhupada's principles. So I have to please. I have to rectify. It's not about every devotee should work very hard. Some people don't handle it. If you don't handle it now, it will come. Maybe after some few years, it will come out. Somehow one should, at some point of time, one should handle this freedom from sense gratification and work towards freedom from puja, pratishtha and labha. Self-centeredness, self-importance. The self-importance is, see, the material, in the spiritual world, everybody is trying to be insignificant. In the material world, everybody is trying to be important. So material world is full of pride and spiritual world is full of humility. There is a competition for humility in the spiritual world. Here there is competition to be proud. We should know all these material waves of rasa in this material world so that we can stay away from all these things by chanting the Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Any questions? Mike.
You were telling about how a devotee should see everything as that Krishna is the sanctioner. But even within our organization also, that's absolute terms, yes, Krishna is the sanctioner. But there is a relative reality at a Vyavaharik level. So, at a Vyavaharik level, if you don't ask for your due, then it will be kind of a foolishness also. So, yes, at an absolute level, that is true, that Krishna is the sanctioner. So, although being a devotee,
yeah, at Vyavaharik level, I got your question.
Yeah, at a Vyavaharik level, we must be smart enough, otherwise we'll be naive in Krishna consciousness.
The problem. The smartness is a problem. One should execute one's duty. It's my duty, here this is my duty, I have to go and, because let's say something you are feeling convinced it is your service to the Lord or whatever it is. It is your duty to go on duty. Duty is not impelled. Duty, when you do something out of the duty, it is not impelled out of it's my due. You don't know if it's your due. If suppose you are not sanctioned, it's not your due. So you should be ready for everything.
Yeah, that's correct. At the end, you leave it to Krishna.
Thinking that, correct, even Vyavaharik also, Vyavaharik level also, the attitude is due. One should not be very sure.
That's fine.
So, yes, this is there. As a duty, you can go and ask. Whoever is in whose hand that thing is there to sanction, one can go and ask. Vaishnavas don't fight for fairness, because in all you measure in different directions, you look like this is unfair, this unfair, this unfair, and this unfair. Because in the material world, ultimately, what somebody gets and what doesn't get is based not on many things that you have analyzed, fair and unfair. It is based on past life, many lives, and so many criterions are there. So, if one is, in a Vyavaharik level, one is bringing up these things in a with a proper attitude, and not thinking that I have to be smart, otherwise I will be stamped down. If I don't speak up, I'll be stamped down. So therefore, that whole life, you're constantly on guard that, if I don't ask for my rights, I'll be stamped down. All these kind of finer feelings that we have to adjust. So dutifully asking something, doing something, dutifully complaining. See, for instance, if you have something, something in terms of attitude, somebody may say, hey, you cannot go and tell this subject matter to the president like this, or authority like this. I would say no, you can tell anything to the authority. It depends on what is the attitude. Dutifully, one can speak anything. But if he's in a cocksure mood, he is in a challenging mood, or if the person is telling it's my entitlement, fairness, right, these kind of things actually disturb bhakti. It disturbs bhakti. Or one should be so expert that when he says it's unfair and fair, at the superficial level only he says. Because otherwise, one will not be able to sleep. Oh, so unfair, so unfair, so unfair, so unfair. Are we controlling this material world? It will disturb our bhakti. Execute our duty. Do what we can. What you have to do, what you have to tell. You have to give first what you think, let us say, some fairness. We have to present all the facts for the fairness. You put all your energy in convincing all those things. That's fine, finally. The absolute fairness is, whether relative terms it is really fair or not, is irrelevant for a Vaishnava. Because he really thinks that absolute fairness, even in relative world, fairness doesn't slip away for no reasons. For no reasons. Suppose two devotees are in conflict, fighting. They come to the authority. Now you may try your best, but destiny is such that even if that person is wrong, even if that person is right, you may give a decision is wrong, because all the facts don't reach you. Everything doesn't reach you. Now if we go for perfection, there's no end. Nobody can exist. So here it is. Okay, now you are right, you are wrong. Then what should the devotee say? He said, really, actually, I know the fact, I am not wrong. He should simply say that there is some past reasons. Leave it. Maybe you can go once again and tell and convince. But there is no bitterness. There is no bitterness, there is no fairness, it's not been fair. All these are it'll pull our consciousness down to this material world. So therefore, the ultimate sanction of the Lord should be accepted after doing one's duty, even at the Vyavaharik level. Not at the Vyavaharik level, the Lord is not, the Krishna consciousness is exempted in these matters also. We have to, our Krishna consciousness has to pervade into Vyavaharik world, but in a different way. And obviously in this Paramarthik issues also. For devotees, Paramarthik and Vyavaharik is within spirituality. For karmis, when we say Vyavaharik, that whole outside world is Vyavaharik. So when we say Vyavaharik, for instance, institution is Vyavaharik, you can say. But it is spiritual Vyavaharik. It should not be treated like that. So when, for us, everything is spiritual, Vyavaharik, because everywhere Krishna is involved. Krishna is involved in the devotee's karma. Krishna is involved in Paramatma is involved in every devotee's gunakala karma is handled by Krishna. Once you surrender your life to the spiritual master, Guru Krishna handles our karma. How he handles for our eternal benefit, we should have full faith that he is handled. Therefore, Prabhupada says that whatever happens, the devotee thinks Krishna's mercy. After doing whatever it is, your duty you have to do. So it's important that we do our duty. When we are in the material world, self-defense is one of the duties. So that's all. As a dutifully do it, without attachment to what the consequences, results are. Any other questions? So attitude is important, that's all. Consciousness behind it.
Hare Krishna, bro.
Yeah.
When you mentioned about two devotees' case, in the sense they come to the authority, when you're giving a judgment, you are assuming that he has to take it in that sense. But isn't there an aspect of whether that devotee is mature enough to handle that kind of a answer? Shouldn't a devotee or the authority think in that direction, because that may lead to his derailing in spiritual life?
No, this is reality of life. There are two aspects. The devotee is not, the leader is not God. He has to do within the limitations of what he definitely should think what is a fairness in the situation. He has to see. But you cannot guarantee that it will be fair. You take even in the case of court judgments, very good judges, their judgment goes wrong from the reality because some other factors are working. So rather the devotee should learn to surrender. That means, that is why I am talking, for instance, in this class I am talking about, let's say, fighting about fairness. How much should a devotee fight for fairness? This is a point. So when he should learn how to be Krishna conscious. So that is why in the Vaishnava association, the devotee progresses. The leader should feel responsible that I have to be as fair as possible. This is one of the good qualities of a leader, to always give fairness to all the subjects. But it can go wrong. Then what happens to the devotee is the question. Even the devotee can very, very impassionately tell the authorities, "Oh, I know what happened. It's not true. Anyway, some karma of my past, I'll take it." There's nothing wrong. Then the leader will start thinking, hey, what is there? Once again he'll call. What is it? What is your case? What is your case? What is your case? He'll call. Then he may change the decision also. Grandharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.